Hello, Jersey Church family. This is Pastor Paul. Again, we've got another snow day today after having the ice storm last week. This time we've got huge amounts of snowfall in the area. In fact, I think that this is actually the largest snowfall I've ever seen or in my lifetime, ever been a part of. And so it's really pretty neat to see all that out there. But at the same time, I miss being able to be together for worship today. But hope you're doing well, staying safe, staying warm out there, and hopefully this Wednesday we'll be back together for our regular Wednesday activities. Hopefully things will be cleared up and back by then. I know we have scheduled for our senior adult luncheon for Monday, for tomorrow, and we'll just see how things are for that, and we'll send out a one call to let everyone know what that's going to look like. But we may end up having to postpone it maybe to next week, but we'll see what happens with that. But again, hope you're safe. Hope you're staying well and enjoying this snow fall. It sure is pretty out there to see. But I do want to share a message with you today. Before I do that, let me mention a couple other things. Down in the comments, or not the comments, the caption of this video today, I'm going to post some links in there to some of the worship songs that the praise team was planning to lead us in singing this morning. That way you can have some at-home worship time there, just listening to those or singing along with them. The videos that will be posted are actually lyric videos, so you'll see the words there just like you would on a Sunday morning, and have the original artist singing those songs this morning on the videos that'll be linked up there. Also in that section we'll have a link to our online giving. We know that's part of worship is giving of our tithes and offerings, and when we're not together in person, it's a little bit more difficult to do that for many, but we do make it a little easier with our online giving platform. That link will take you to our church page, where we have a form on there where you can give online toward general fund or other special offerings and those kind of things as well. So just want to make you aware of that, and I hope you enjoy our time of worship this morning. This sermon is continuing in this sermon series that we've been in, the sermon series called Weird, and we're actually going to talk a little bit about money today and how God calls us to do money and how things are a little bit different than the way the world does them. That's what makes it a little bit weird in what God has to say about it. Full disclosure, I know that money's not an easy topic to talk about, to listen to a sermon about, to even preach about. Pastors really don't like preaching about money either, but the Bible does talk a lot about it, and it can get a hold of our lives in ways that we don't want, and so that's why we need to talk about it this morning and what God has to say that makes the way that He wants us to do things with money and stuff and all of that a little bit different and a little bit weird compared to what the world does. I want to actually start it by reading to you a children's story. It's a little book called If You Give a Mouse a Cookie, and it actually really talks a lot about what maybe the quote American dream is like. So listen to this children's story. If you give a mouse a cookie, he's going to ask for a glass of milk. When you give him the milk, he'll probably ask you for a straw. When he's finished, he'll ask for a napkin. Then he'll want to look in a mirror to make sure he doesn't have a milk mustache. When he looks into the mirror, he might notice his hair needs a trim, so he'll probably ask for a pair of nail scissors. When he's finished giving himself a trim, he'll want a broom to sweep up. He'll start sweeping. He might get carried away and sweep every room in the house. He may end up even washing the floors. And when he's done, he'll probably want to take a nap. You will have to fix a little box for him with a blanket and a pillow. He'll crawl in, make himself comfortable, and fluff the pillow a few times. He'll probably ask you to read him a story. So you'll read him one from one of your books, and he'll ask to see the pictures. When he looks at the pictures, he'll get so excited, he'll want to draw one of his own. He'll ask for paper and crayons. He'll draw a picture. When the picture's finished, he'll sign his name with a pen. Then he'll want to hang his picture on your refrigerator, which means he will need Scotch tape. He'll hang up his drawing and stand back to look at it. Looking at the refrigerator will remind him that he's thirsty, so he'll ask for a glass of milk. And chances are, if he asks for a glass of milk, he's going to want a cookie to go with it. So the normal American dream can be summed up in this simple children's story. In fact, you could probably retell it in a variety of different ways. You could retell it if you give a college student a part-time job, he's going to get new clothes. And if he gets new clothes, he's going to want to go on a date. And if he goes on a date, he's going to go to an expensive restaurant, which means he's going to have to get a credit card to pay for it. And then he'll want to buy more new stuff. And when he buys new stuff, he'll earn the points to go on trips. And then he'll want to go on a trip. And then it goes on and on and on and on. And somewhere down the road, we find out that we've gotten somewhere with our stuff and with our money and debt and all those things that we just didn't realize just how far it went. We just always seem to want more. You know, when it comes to money, normal's broke, but it still can't seem to get enough. And that's the way it seems with money these days, is that we in our possessions, is that we always want more. It doesn't seem like we have enough. You know, in fact, everyone wants to be rich, but no one thinks they're rich. In fact, there's a study done by the University of Warwick in the UK that says it isn't the amount of money that you have that makes you rich. It's how much you have or make in comparison to those around you or those in the same profession as you. So really, it's all relative. You know, you'll never be rich until you can find someone that you can't count as high as you can. We're all comparing one to the other, and I know I've heard some other studies that say that when they've asked people about how much it would take to be wealthy, how much it would take to be rich, how much an annual salary would be, and almost to a person, everybody said an answer that was basically double what their annual income was. So if you make $25,000, it was $50,000 to be rich. If you make $50,000, it's $100,000. If you make $100,000, it's $200,000. And when does it stop? It just doesn't. We just keep on wanting more. In fact, there's a few other facts about normal when it comes to money. One of those is that 98% of Americans consider themselves not rich. That's pretty much everybody, right? But in fact, if you make $50,000 a year, that would put you as a top 4% income earner worldwide. You would be in the top 4% of the world in terms of income. If you increase that a little bit to about $70,000 a year, you would be in the top 1% in the world in terms of what you earn every year. And that's even adjusted for cost of living and all the things that we would say, well, you don't take this into account. You really take into account everything. $70,000 a year puts you in the top 1% of earners in the world. Top 4% is $50,000 per year. But we don't think we're rich. We don't think that we have all these things. And so because we don't think that we're rich, we tend to skip over those parts of the Bible that speak about wealthy people or about money or things. We just think that it just doesn't pertain to us because we're not one of those, right? It doesn't matter what we earn. There's somebody else that earns more, or we need to earn more to be rich, and so we just don't ever think that we are. But we need to own it. We are the wealthy people that the Bible speaks about. That's who we are. And so being rich does lead to a few different things. It doesn't always happen. It isn't an evil thing to have wealth and things, but there are some things that we know that being rich does sometimes when we have a little bit. And one, it makes it harder to depend on God. We end up relying on all the things that we have instead. We can take care of that. We can buy our way out of that mess. We can take care of it with money. If we have a medical issue, well, we have some money in savings. We got some money somewhere. We can take care of those things. We can buy our popularity. We can buy people, buy friends in a way by just having the stuff and being able to throw parties or different types of things like that. We just think that we don't depend on God for all the things that we need because we think we can take care of ourselves when we have a little bit. But it also does another thing. It distracts us from our true priorities. We often think that if we need to have money, if we need to have wealth, if we need to do all those things, then our priorities become working more, spending more time in the office, and or having the right stuff, or all that. Those things become our priorities, and we shift our focus from our families or from our faith or spending time with God or the ones that we love. I mean, we get so distracted by we just got to have the next thing that we lose our focus on the true priorities that we can have. But it also does something else, and this isn't a bad thing. Being rich gives us greater responsibility. We have much, and so we're expecting much. We're expecting to do things with the resources that we have. Just like when God blessed Abraham in the book of Genesis, he said, "You are blessed to be a blessing." We are blessed people. We have more than we need. And we're blessed in that way so that we can be a blessing to others. It comes with responsibility to manage those things well, to manage what God has given us or what God has entrusted to us to take care of. He expects us to be responsible with those things. We are really managing what's His anyway. And so He wants us to be responsible with it. There's a couple things that the Bible warns us about. A couple of passages that I want to read to you that tell us something about wealth, about money, and not necessarily money itself, but our desire for it. That's a warning for our lives. In Ecclesiastes 5, verse 10, it says this: "Whoever loves money never has money enough. Whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with his income." You don't hear it. I mean, the passage doesn't say whoever has money never has enough, or has wealth is never satisfied. But those who love it, who crave it, who greed it, who always just want more, will never be satisfied. Will never have enough of those things. It's this greed, it's this desire for more that shifts our priorities, that shifts our dependence, that shifts our focus away from what God has for us. 1 Timothy in the New Testament, 1 Timothy 6, verses 9 and 10 says this: "People who want to get rich fall into temptation and a trap, and into many foolish and harmful desires that plunge men into ruin and destruction. For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. Some people, eager for money, have wandered from the faith and pierced themselves with many griefs." Again, that passage doesn't say, in fact, that's one of the most misquoted passages in the Bible, especially with regard to money, is that we often quote it by saying is money is the root of all evil. That's not what the passage says. So let's set the record straight. Being rich or wealthy isn't a sin. We shouldn't feel guilty that we have a good job or a nice income or nice things. In both of these scriptures that we just looked at, they talk about that the love of wealth or the love of money is the root of temptation and grief. Not the money itself, it's this greed that we have for it. But this love of money, this greed that we have for stuff, leads to normal things in our culture. It's the normal way of doing things. We want more. And so normal are things like monthly payments. They're normal things are like credit card debt or minimum payments. Those are normal stuff. Things like tension in your family, fights with your spouse, helplessness, frustration, powerlessness, despair, shame, embarrassment are normal when it comes to money. That's just the way that the world works, because that's just what we do. We get embarrassed by the fact that we've got all these minimum payments because we've gotten to a place like the mouse in the story where we just had to keep on adding more and more and more, and now we're somewhere that we didn't even know how we got here or have no idea how to get out of it, because we are doing things normal, the way that the world does stuff. So perhaps you're in that spot now. Perhaps that's where you're at. You're thinking, look, I know what you're saying. I'm feeling a bit beaten down by it. Like, I get it. I'm in this spot. I know I'm there. And if I could, I'd change it. But you've got to get money, or got to have money to get out of this mess. And all my extra income, all those extra things are tied up. I think we've all felt that way at different times, where we feel like, we've got to have something to be able to get out of some of the mess that we've gotten ourselves in. But, you can't get out of the mess overnight. It's not like going to buy a lottery ticket is the answer to this. It's not like you just are going to open the mailbox and have a big check that's in there and then everything is taken care of. It just doesn't happen that way. You don't get out of a mess overnight, but you didn't get into the mess overnight either. In fact, there are really two main steps to get out of a financial mess. One, these are practical things. One of those steps is to earn more. The second step is to spend less. Now, it's ideal if you can do both of those, right? Figure out a way to earn a little bit more, whether it's a side job or just a little bit of a hobby that can turn into an income-producing thing. Sell some things, have a yard sale, do something and put it all toward that. and focus in looking around your house, figuring out what can go, what you need, what you don't, and be open to selling some of those things. I think Dave Ramsey talks about how you have this gazelle-like intensity with it, where you're just passionate about getting out of debt, getting out of this place, and you're willing to sell just about everything, so much so that your kids are worried that they're next, is kind of how he puts it. I wouldn't go that far, but what can you do to earn more? The second piece of that is, how do we spend less? What are things that we can cut out? Do we need all the extra packages on our TVs? Do we need all the extra subscriptions to all the different music services that are out there? Do we need all the stuff? Do we need to spend all that we do going out to eat all the time, or this or that? Look at your budget. Look at where you're spending money on. If you don't have a budget, make a budget, and begin to look at where you're spending money and see ways that you can cut back. I'm betting that if you take a hard look at it, you can find a place where maybe it's just $20 or $30 a month that you can cut out and spend less. So that's how we work toward getting out of a financial mess. Is one is earn more, two is spend less. But how does weird look at money? What's a weird approach to handling finances? So if normal says things like, I need more, I want more, give me, give me, give me, then weird would say, how can I give more? What can I give? And instead of give me, it's give more, give more, give more. That's weird. That's different than what the world says. The world teaches us that normal is getting stuff, acquiring things, getting more wealth, more stuff in our houses, more stuff in our bank accounts, more stuff, more for us. Whereas weird says, how can I be a blessing? How can I give? How can I turn a generous eye toward our world? Proverbs 22:9, in fact, says it this way. It says, he who has a generous eye will be blessed, for he gives bread to the poor. He who has a generous eye will be blessed. So how can we be more generous? How can we look for ways to give? How can we look for ways to give, not just monetarily, but with our time, with our energy, with our influence, with all the things that we have been blessed with? How can we be greater givers? In fact, how can we, Groeschel, who wrote some of the study that we're working on here in another book, he talks about one of his principles that he lives by is irrational generosity. How can we be people who the way that, to the extent that we're generous, how can we be so generous that it just seems irrational to be that generous to giving toward others? There's three types of givers that you can be. One is a spontaneous giver. A spontaneous giver is somebody who basically just, whenever they have a little bit of extra, they'll maybe give it to somebody, or just, the end of the month something happens and they have a little extra income. They may look at being able to give it somewhere, or something comes up. You see somebody on the street who needs a meal, or something comes along at church or somewhere else where there's a fundraiser drive, or helping someone who's just had a house fire, or a new baby or something like that, where just the random things come up and you're willing to give, and that's just a spontaneous way of doing things. In fact, most of the time when we're spontaneous in our giving, it tends to be the type of giving that comes after everything else that we want is taken care of. If we happen to have the extra left over, then we're willing to part with some of that extra that we have, but everything else is taken care of first. And then if it's just there, then we might spontaneously find ways to give that if the need comes along somewhere. Another type of giver that we can be is a strategic giver. A strategic giver is someone who plans in their budget every month to give a certain amount, a certain place, a certain way of doing things. The money is set aside to give. In the church, we might call that a tithe. We might give the 10% that the Bible talks about giving. Or it may not be that. It may be something else. It may be more than that. Or it may be a different way that you're giving strategically, but you have it set up in your budget where you just know that I'm strategically going to give this much money every month, every year, every week, whatever it might be. Maybe that's a percentage, maybe that's a dollar amount, maybe it's something that's there that it's in your strategy of your money to give that somewhere. And that's important, because when we're then we tend to give not only when we have the extra, but it becomes part of our regular routine of giving And it begins to change our mindset about that too. And so being a strategic giver is better than being a spontaneous giver. But as we go into that being strategic in that, we can take it a step further. In fact, the next step that we could go in this 3 types of giver, it goes from spontaneous to strategic to then being a sacrificial giver. We can be strategic in our giving, but it really doesn't, I don't want to say hurt, but we don't really feel it. It's maybe a smaller amount or something like that, or maybe we've given a large amount and it was tough for a while to get used to that, but it was a sacrifice that we were giving. But as our income increased or whatever it might be, that might have been easy to do after a while. It's no longer a sacrifice. It's still strategic, but it's not sacrificial. But a sacrificial giver is someone who says, I'm going to continue to give over and above and beyond what is comfortable. I'm going to push because I know that being a blessing is what God calls me to be. It's more blessed to give than to receive, and that Proverbs tells us, and as I just read, he who has a generous eye will be blessed. And so we're going to strategically give. We're going to sacrificially give in those ways, and whatever that looks like for you. That might be just a little bit right now because you're trying to figure some things out, and you want to be strategic and sacrificial, not just spontaneous in that. And so it's tough, but it's just a little bit right now, and that's okay. Or maybe you're a place where, hey, I've been giving consistently for a really long time, and what I'm giving now is the same as I've been giving for a while, and I don't really feel it. It's not sacrificial anymore. Maybe the encouragement to you is look at ways to give a little more. Now, this is not just a message to tell you to give more to the church. This is not a, hey, make sure you're writing your check to Jersey Baptist Church or whatever. I mean, that's part of what we give is that 10% the Bible tells us to give. Often we do give that back to our church as a way to help with not only taking care of bills and salaries and all that kind of stuff, but it's a way of forwarding the mission of God to our world. It funds missionaries. It funds service projects in our communities. It does all of those things through the giving that we give to our church. The Bible tells us to give that. But this isn't a message to tell you to give more to Jersey Baptist. This is a message to tell you about what God tells us to do with our money. In fact, if you give the 10% the Bible tells you to give, that would be weird to begin with, because the average American Christian only gives about 2% of their income. So just starting there would be a little different. But you might look to other places to give, other charities, other organizations in our world, other things that are there that you can that you're passionate about, that you can give toward. If you're able and you desire to, then give more to the church, to other charities, to other people, to other things that are there. But as we give, it changes our mindset about money. It's no longer about us. It's about giving it to other people, other organizations in need. And then what happens is that our money just has a little bit less hold on our lives, and we're taking control of it instead. But the important thing is to start somewhere. You might be looking and saying, man, I'd love to be able to give 10% of my income right now to the church or to wherever, but that's a really big jump for us right now. If you're not giving any, then start somewhere. Start with 1% or 2%. Then increase that as you can. Pay off some debt, earn more, spend less, free up some income, and then maybe that becomes where you increase that percentage a little bit further. Go and just start somewhere. Be a spontaneous giver if you're not doing that. Be strategic. Be sacrificial. Most importantly, look for ways to give, not just to get. As I said, when we do that, we become weird. We become different than our world. It's not normal to live that way, that we are always looking to be able to give to others. When we do that, our money has less hold on us, and we've got more of a hold on it. And that's the way that God wants it. We want to manage the things that God has given us, the ways that God wants us to do it. He's given it to us. It's His already. He's really just given it to us to manage. And so that's what our call is to manage what God has given us. Hope we can do that well in the coming days. I know we just finished a curriculum in the fall of the year with Financial Peace University. I hope to be able to offer that again in the fall of this coming year as well. And if that's something that you're interested in finding out more about God's ways of doing money, then look for that course to be coming out soon. But in the meantime, if you need help with this, then please let us know. We'll see what we can do to help you to figure out ways to make money less of a thing that you serve and more of something that it is there for you to be able to bless others with instead. Let's pray together. God, we thank you for all the blessings that you give to us, for the money that we have, for the income that comes in from all the different ways that you've called us to work. We also thank you for the blessings of our health, of our energies, of our time, of all the resources that you give to us. And help us as we take this in and we think about it to be more generous, to look for ways that we can be a blessing to others through what you've blessed us with, to have a generous eye toward others. And through that, we can be a blessing, and we will be blessed as well. Lord, help us to not love money. Help us not be greedy, but to be generous, knowing that all that you have given to us is really yours. You've given it to us to manage. So help us to manage it well, to follow you, to look to you for guidance, look to you for wisdom and to your word, as it teaches us so much about the ways that we manage what you've given to us. We thank you for it in your name. Amen. Well, I hope you have a great day today. I know that it's a little different, of course, and hope that next Sunday we'll be back together in person and able to worship that way. But again, enjoy the time, spending time with family, looking at things. Hey, maybe it's time today when you're just sitting inside wondering what you're going to do because it's just so snowy and messy outside. Maybe it's a good time to look at the budget and work on it. It's a new month, February 1st is today, and so you can make a budget for February and see how you can be more of a giver and those things. Just put it into practical use. Anyway, hope you have a great day. If you guys need anything, please let me know. We hope to be back in the office some this week as well, depending on how the roads clear up. So we'll see you guys soon, and praying for a good week for you. Thank you.